Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
And I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health. Join us as we try out new things, or as we call it, weird shit, and have some fun along the way. Hey there, today is part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Sara on tantric practices. If you missed the first part, go back and listen to episode 5 to really learn what Tantra is all about. In this episode, we talk about finding that spark within you and reconnecting your energy and your passion in the everyday by doing something for your mind, your body, and your spirit. Enjoy!
Now, healing is a privilege in every context of the word. You have to have the time, the ability, the money to have gratitude in your life. If you are starving for the basic needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you are stuck on the bottom, it is hard. Freedom is maximizing your privilege. So it's about seeing what you are able to do within your context and fitting those variables. And that's what Tantra asks you to do, or that's what the energy of the world, because then you're in good vibes.
Sarah, it leads me really to ask the question, because so many of these healing practices, especially like being in the Western world, many of them are from the Eastern, basically technologies region. How can we integrate and practice these without crossing that line into cultural appropriation?
Appropriation has to do with your intention and integrity, utilizing practices that are proven. There's nothing wrong with that. That is smart. We should, as the world, build upon the good things that we have. It is when we take ownership, when we say, I have a new thing. Is it really new? You're teaching a version of this. It's more about wording and intention and how you're packaging and monetizing the experience, in my opinion, is that's appropriation. So when we find like touch or massage, okay, for example, that belongs to nobody. That practice belongs to nobody, but then we can center it that the Eastern cultures, it's part of their life. It's literally part of their lifestyle. And so they appreciate it. And they also are cultures of touch more. They hug, they are more embracive. So when in the West, when we look at then these touch practices and whatnot, and we morph them with our energy, our intention, and they become something else, literally. So the process of authenticating, again, it comes back to your energy too. It's how much research you do into the people that you're learning from. It's, what you ignore when you see red flags in their word or their speech. This is life. There's good and there's bad. And each person's path is to discover those things for themselves. And Tantra is the perfect realm for spiritual bypassing and triggering and re-traumatizing. In fact, it is. And so because of that risk and gain, it's like you could ascend. You could have an awakening and but what if someone traumatizes you? So you have to be aware that you're entering into like a gauntlet of energy, but that's why you're coming with awareness. You're not walking, if you kind of what we do, I guess, is walk around the world not knowing that we're in it. And that's why we get hurt. And that's why we feel pain. And that's why we have suffering and we hold on to our hurt.
So what does a tantric class look like?
It looks like whatever the teacher presents it to be. Tantra could be a talk lecture, which is mostly what I do. I work for a Tantra school called Inner Camp. So I teach teachers, I teach teacher trainings. Private client work looks, again, it's quite autonomous in that way, right? Anyone can make a program and teach it. You're vetting, and you should ask, where did you learn your practices? How long have you been practicing? Look for proof of their work, especially if you're going into tantric practices. Now, tantric practices could just be mental, like meditations and mind work and breath work, but then it can also include touch, massage, and then there are practices of waking sexual energies. So there are union practices that can be done with another or with groups. And then we have a deeper realm, which is when you actually have to heal out anything. This is shadow healing. So if you have wounds around sexual trauma, if you have wounds around just your sexual identity in general, sometimes those practices take extremes. And this is what Osho kind of got in trouble for when he brought Tantra to the West. Without context, without understanding, without the realm of knowledge that we have actually now, that we did not have 25 years ago. You know what I mean? That is the difference, that we are now accepting a realm of therapeutic care within these deeper, darker tantric practices. Am I allowed to say BDSM and that's enough? It's like, how do you want me to go with this? Kink and
I think you should say whatever you feel comfortable saying.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't know anything about Tantra. I've heard different things, I've read different things, and I think there's definitely a lot more to it than what's out on mainstream media. And so I'm curious, how does somebody who really knows nothing, how do you start? Where do you start?
So I would
What?
ask you, what are you looking for in your life? Is there something you want to change? Is there something you're unsatisfied with? Is there a wound? What is the access point?
So I would say that really what I'm seeking for at this point in my life is just deeper connections with my spouse, with my family, and even outside of that with friends. Right now, I just am feeling isolated in some ways, and that my connections are somewhat superficial just due to everyday life. Because I'm a mom, I'm a nurse leader, I work full time, I got an elderly father, all of those different things. And so I tend to rush from thing to thing to thing, which I think just about everybody is. And so there's not a lot of time for developing those connections. And I personally am longing for those. It feels like that's missing. So that's what I would be looking for.
When you talk about connection, there's two types of connection. There's connection of yourself and connection of others. So if we're talking about connection of others, we're talking about intimacy. It would be, how do we create more intimacy in your life? Then you would go at each of those examples that you put, your partner. Then we would go into, what is intimacy to the two of you? What do you desire? And how do you communicate that out? And then you would supply practices, intimacy practices. Then you can take that to modulate the practices to be appropriate for your friendship circles, for your family members. Then on the other side of connectedness, there's the self. So a little self-compassion, because as you said, you are a nurse leader, you're a mom, all these things. So there is going to be a little less time for those things. So are we making the bang for the buck? You know what I mean? Like, then the love language becomes quality time, right? Are we maximizing that element? Also, we to do the shadow work of this is to make sure that these feelings that you are having are not out of insecurity or just feeling like I feel left out or I feel alone, you know what I mean? And not amplifying this alone time, because those times when we do feel left out or alone, or that's something, if we can amplify that back into high frequency of self-love, and that's when we find a new hobby. That's when we find a new social network that brings that into that side of connectedness. Maybe sometimes we just need new friends. So it's about exploring all the options and looking at it as it's not you. That's just the energy of the situation. So how do we manipulate it? And so we will use, if we're going authentically tantric, there's a lot of visualizations that you can use, affirmations, mantras, movement practices to feel your empowerment. I am a woman. I am taking care of, I breathe this energy to me. I shouldn't want for attention as a woman. It really is, I should step outside and it will be granted to me because we are feminine and we call it in. So it's all of these elements. And Some of the things I said might have fully clicked in, and some of the things you're like, okay, that's a little woo. But then that's where you find where you're at and where you either want to be or understand.
Yeah, I think that your piece about movement really resonates with me. I've started doing this thing in the morning after I take, like with the end of my shower, I go to freezing cold water and I do the last minute and a half of cold shower. And then I do kind of like a morning bounce, is what I call it, to just kind of reset myself. And so it is a little weird looking. It is a little woo woo, but I feel better when I do it. So I think that the physical connection of movement really is an aspect that I am curious about and I enjoy seeing if it works or doesn't work.
That little spark that you're like, it feels good to me. That's it. So it's like, bringing that out more and more in life. I am ridiculously embarrassing. Ouch. If I hear music, I will start just dancing as I'm walking. Sure, someone might look at me as I'm weird, but I'm like, wow, you can't dance for a second in your life. That's weird. Now I'm setting the new normal because this feels good. And
Yeah.
so it is about taking those little sparks, especially in movement, because we as Western people, we're just working in an autopilot all the time, feeling what we call flow state, feeling energy move through you. One of the most humanistic experiences we can have. And we can do that all day long. You can bring this back to science and we can go to the polyvagal theory. Movement, any type of dance, any of this is relaxing the vagus nerve, is relaxing into the parasympathetic system. So we can go that way. But you can talk about just relating to the divine experience of this, I'm quite sensitive to breeze. Okay. So it's like the relationship that I have with the wind. I have a relationship with this element. Okay. She shows up. It bothers me when I'm usually really, not wanting her around. But it's just like a very interesting thing. But I have to work with her because I have a sensitivity to feeling praise. And you can work with these, and this is, you go into science, this is our temperance. It's our likes and our dislikes in who make us who we are. But all of that comes down to your energy experience. And you can modulate that. That's like playing and exploring things. And that's where tantric sex comes involved. You explore new elements. And that's where you can bring in a new experience of yourself or spiritual awakening. When you allow your mind to think out of the box, then all of a sudden your box changes shape. And it's so interesting. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I could see you light up just talking about it.
I do. I really, really do.
But I think that's the biggest part, right? Is that we're all looking to find that spark.
Yeah.
And when we go through our day repeating the same behaviors, repeating the same habits, we essentially are creating the reality that we're expressing to the world that we want. And if we want something different, we need to start to express something different.
And that is the power of manifestation. And when you manifest, you speak in the now. You don't say, I want this. You're like, I am this. I am this. And this is, again, just energy, right? When we speak something out, you create a wave frequency. This, again, we have science proof of all of this, but frequency matters. And so when we say things out loud, when we present ourselves, when we make an impression, all of it matters.
Yes, that's where it also comes into you have to feel it. Our emotions are frequency. So if you're singing, oh, I want to be a leader, in that like monotone, like
if you want to be a leader for money, okay, you're going to burn out fast. That money is not going to make you feel good. But if you want to be a leader because you're passionate, because you have a fight in your soul for something, or you have, an abundance of care for something, that energy never dies. That, again, is spiritual bypassing. When we say, I just need the money, I just need the paycheck, when we do things like that, we are bypassing our true self. We're bypassing what our heart wants. Definitely. So,
100%.
and then it gives out.
Yeah.
I think that we also tend to divorce ourselves away from our own energy when we're in the thick of a lot of work. I know that I have done that personally just to get through the grind, even though I have the passion for the team and for the work and for the patients. I have found myself in a place where it's like, I'm just going, going, going. And I have almost like shut that part of myself out and having to find a way to pull that back in because I need that spark. I want that spark. And that's really tough, I think, in some of the environments that we're in. What are some small ways for someone to bring some of these practices just into their daily life as they're running from one thing to the next so they can reconnect with that energy and their passion?
I like to just go with mind, body, soul. You got to do something for your mind, something for your body, and something for your soul every day. Mind is clear it. Clearing doesn't mean you don't have thoughts. That's just impossible. Stop your brain. It means that you're not attached to the thoughts and to be able to sit with yourself. It was really hard for me to access this, and I did it slowly. Tapping meditations are fantastic access points for beginner meditators. Sensory meditations, meaning that you're really just paying attention to your breath. You're paying attention to your heart rate. You're paying attention to the tingly feelings that are running up and down your body or your legs and your arms. When you can suspend the mind a little, that's meditation too. So it's just about slowing it down repetitively, and it's more about consistency more than anything. It's these neural pathways. If your parasympathetic starts to be notice that once a day it's having this, okay, you will either crave it more or for longer periods, or you'll gain some mastery of this. You'll gain some ascension of this that will morph it into a whole new thing. And that's when we go into other types of transcendental meditations and quantum meditations. But then for your body, obviously, a movement practice of your choice. You don't have to be a yogi. Something you flow state in, that can be really tiring activity, right? It's, for the surfers out there, they go and they surf and that's exhausting, yet they come out of that water like a million bucks, right? So it's something that does that to you. If we are going traditionally tantric, yes, we would call in the energies that we're looking for. So Shakti and Shiva, any of the goddesses, Kali, you can read about these characters and the stories that are written about them. If they resonate with you, the energy is inside you, then you should play with it. Movement dances of Shakti or Shiva and some of the transitions of the music, they'll go softer and lighter. And that's pulling in Shakti for the feminine. And then you've got when it goes darker and deeper into the base, then you're pulling in Shiva, and that is the masculine. And we all feel this. Like I feel when I'm in my masculine. I know when I'm open and I'm in nice and I'm enveloping. And I know when I am in my masculine and I am charged and there is some boundary in me and I am posturing differently. If we can start to hone in on which energy we're showing up in, then we can also regulate it back when it's not serving us. Oh, and spirit. Spirit would be we're connected and stuff. And for me, that's access to nature. I think as people, we are on autopilot. We go to work, we go home. If you don't have a relationship with nature, and I don't mean it in the sense of exercise, I don't mean it. You go out there to exercise. You go out there to connect to nature, which means you're either grounding, and that is scientifically proven. The earth is a frequency of 8 megahertz and our resting body is 8 megahertz. So you connect your feet to the ground, you become a conduit. You can sit and feel those earth supporting you and you're pushing back on the earth. And that is a union right there. And when you go and you walk in nature and you pick up the wind and you pick up the sounds and everything, but you also have to honor your innate feelings inside too. So that's where your inner child comes out. So it's like you're walking and you see a tree. I don't care how old you are. If it's safe, come the tree. Like those kind of aspects, your curiosity to touch textures, to smell things. That is the connectedness of nature.
Wow, Sarah, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. I think we've done a great job connecting nursing to specifically this beautiful tantric modality that helps us connect through mind, body, and spirit. And with that, I think you've dispelled a lot of myths that people may have had and misconceptions that they had about Tantra. I hope people learn from this experience and give it a try. How can people connect with you?
I am on Instagram under Tonic Tantra, and the website will be up soon too.
Great. Well, we hope that everybody finds you out on Instagram and gives it a try. I think I will.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend. Want to learn more about a specific topic? Drop us a line on our website and we can explore it deeper with you.